Welcome, guys, to the How They Did It podcast. I'm here with Jud Lionhardt. You guys haven't seen him on Instagram. You're missing out. He looks like a bodybuilder, but he moves like an athlete. He's a former linebacker. He's a bronze. He got the Bronze Star for his service in the U.S. Army. So, again, thank you for your service. He was a strength and conditioning coach for his football team, went into sports medicine. He worked in many gyms, and now he has his online coach, and he trains people, professional athletes in speed training, especially if I got that right. And his workouts are unique. I've been following him for a little while. Super big fan, and he looks like a human monster. So it's great to have you on, buddy.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Perfect rundown, man. That's it.
There
So,
you go.
appreciate you. Here.
So, Matt, one, I would like to hear before we get into anything. I'm curious. So this is my own personal thing. So let's put
All right.
that one first. So I'm curious about your unique approach to training. So, like, I guess let me make this in a two-part question. One, you started out bodybuilding. Am I correct with that?
Yeah, man, at a young age, for sure. And then like really loved bodybuilding when I was a kid, right? Just a fan. And then, high school football. So still consider myself a bodybuilder, but like, had a really good high school coach that helped me out with plyometrics and performance enhancement. And then college, so college athlete, still wanted to be a bodybuilder. And then I actually was a bodybuilder for a while. And
Okay.
then just training, and then military after that. So, but
Your physique is like it's tremendous. Like you're obviously massive. How much you weigh?
Dude, I haven't weighed myself in a while. Kind of afraid to, but I
Yeah.
think like 255 or 260, something like that.
You're a very big guy, very big muscles. Do you feel that keeping on that size with your new style of training is easily doable? Is there any kind of change you have to do, or you're not even worried about it and you just train the way you train, whatever happens, happens?
Yeah, man, I would actually like to lose a little bit of weight. I think that's going to be the goal for the summertime. I just have a big appetite and I like to lift. So, it just kind of over the years, I've kind of accumulated more muscle. Um, yeah, I don't really have to try to keep it on. And then honestly, man, just a little bit. So what I found is if I can lift really intensely for a few heavy sets per workout, that's plenty to keep the muscle on. And then I just eat. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like over the years, like less volume, more preparation, and then just a really solid couple of heavy working sets per movement pattern. And I try to do that a little bit more frequently, like, twice every 4 days or something like that. Or
So
once
you
every 4 days, I'm sorry.
no. Sorry. So it's like I've seen your training, and there's some very unique movement patterns that you have in there. Some I've actually started using recently. Like I started using the single arm band pull and push, and I actually started feeling it in my spine and my entire rotation. Kind of wish I was doing that more during my fighting days because
Yeah, me too. When I was younger, definitely. Yeah.
when I was younger, yeah, I
Yeah.
wish. The
Yeah.
damage is already done for me now. It's too late. Yeah,
Youth is wasted on the young, right? You know
ain't
what I
that
mean?
the truth? Ain't that the truth? Uh, But yeah, you've been using these kind of movement patterns. So how do you fit it all in? Because I've seen you do deadlifts, you're doing squats, and you're doing all these unique movement patterns. How do you structure your training?
So the stuff that I show, there's a lot of variance to it, but I usually only pick like, I call those flows, right? For
Yeah.
just because you have to flow, it's a sequence movement. You have to flow from using one body part and pattern into the next fluidly. I usually only do one flow per upper body workout,
Okay.
and normally only two sets of that. So the whole thing might take 10 minutes to do that kind of stuff that you're seeing.
Yeah.
And then after that, I'll transition it into working a main movement pattern, let's say horizontal push, right? But I just make sure I incorporate some core with that. And that's another 10 minutes to 15 minutes. So I'll normally do two movements there, like one for a push, one for a pull or something, right? And then after that, I'll move into my main, I call them the go movements, like a landmine, hang clean press or something like that. You know what I mean? Or a snatch or some kind of power movement that's heavy that involves a lot of upper body. And that's another 10 minutes. So right now we're sitting at between 30 and 35 minutes, right? And then I'll get into the very heavy basic lifting that you're probably accustomed to, like the RDLs or the, heavy machine pressing or heavy bench pressing, whatever you want for the day. And I will only really do two working sets of two patterns for that too.
Okay.
Because then I've already gotten some stimulus from the heavy flows and the core incorporated. So I've already gotten quite a bit of stimulus. This is just to get that really heavy resistance, and Mike Menzer a little bit. You
Yeah.
don't need a lot of volume. And the thing is, I don't completely tear myself down because I'm going to train that again in 3 days. You know what I mean? Like, so if there's really very little benefit, I mean, this is proven with science. Like, there's very little benefit to doing more sets after a certain point. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, you might feel the benefit because you get a pump longer,
Yeah.
and you feel engorged. But as far as, scientifically speaking, as far as muscle gains, the diminishing returns happen very quickly. So I get two really good sets in. Maybe the second set I'll take that to failure or do an extended set, some kind of drop set, to go a little bit beyond
Mhm.
voluntary failure. And then after that is when I'll do another couple sets of like my auxiliaries, like tricep push downs or get a pump. And so it's pretty much divided into 10 to 15-minute segments, and there's usually five of those. So, it goes from like the slow, which is like getting the tissues prepped. I call it the slow. And then the flow, which is what you see, and then the go, which is like the heavy power movements, right? The athletic type movements, and then the grow, like the heavy resistance, and then I call it the show. So I get a pump, right? So I just try to dumb it down. And
Yeah.
it looks like a lot, but it's in such short segments that I get it all in quickly.
So you're doing like two sets outside of the warm ups, correct? And you're getting how much rest are you doing between each one of these exercises?
So the body part of the pattern, I'm probably resting about 3 minutes, but I superset that. So when I do a very heavy horizontal push movement, I'll rest 1 minute and then I'll do a very heavy horizontal pull movement.
Okay.
So, technically my chest, you're familiar with all this. So
Yeah,
my chest is still resting. It's passively moving because it's the antagonist. But then I'm able to work my back and just, it's more time efficient that way. And I get a cardio benefit.
definitely. Definitely. Like I generally when I saw your movements, I was one, I really I thought about how like especially so you do this one movement where your legs are slightly twisted on the dip bar and you're like twisting your back. And I was thinking that meant for jiu-jitsu athletes, like because I was a professional fighter for many years and I'm a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. Like I'm like, oh, that was something that you could have done with also I didn't mention the bands are kind of like cross tied around your
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
legs.
yeah.
So you're having resistance as you're twisting it. I'm like, that's actually a workout that's very sport specific that you really don't get in any other movement.
So the trick there is the cool thing with bands, man, is that you can create fulcrums mid movement.
Mhm.
So when I'm, fully turned with my knees this way as I start to push, the resistance is behind me. But as I start to turn, since the band can curve, the other leg will catch that band and create a new fulcrum. So it's got a new vector of resistance. So bands can create dual vector resistance very fluidly, and you can actually use your own body as the fulcrum to create a new vector. I know it sounds really, I don't know if I explained that well enough, but it's one of the only tools you can create new vectors, new fulcrums during the movement, and thus new vectors.
Yep.
So it's all about lever, load, vector, fulcrum, right? Um,
I actually, it completely makes sense to me now. Of course, I'm in the field, but it also makes sense to me from a jiu-jitsu perspective because in
that's right.
jiu-jitsu, you're very much using that same thing. Like you're feeling the tension of the person. You know where the fulcrum is. You know where the tension is. And
That's
then,
such a good analogy, man. Like it's absolutely right. Like you actually use your shoulders and things as levers and fulcrums. That's a great analogy, man. I never even thought of that actually. That jujitsu is really similar. You know what I
I,
mean?
it was funny because that was what like when I saw your exercise, I was like, that click. Like that was my immediate thought. I was like, oh, this reminds me so much of the movement patterns that I'm getting in jiu-jitsu.
So my stuff, it might seem kind of arbitrarily complicated, but I try to explain why I do it, and it's to try to fit as much in at one time as possible without sacrificing the benefit of what I'm doing. So if I can create a new vector mid-movement and not hurt either movement pattern, I'm going to figure out a way to do that. You know what I mean? Like, so it's complicated. It's only complicated when there's a reason to make it complicated. Yeah.
Well, one, I think I can see that to be true. What outside of the fact that you have a lot of experience and Look, I generally come from the standpoint I had a lot of strength and conditioning coaches. So I'm a coach, and I think what makes me somewhat of a successful coach, even though I don't want to consider myself successful, what I think I've connected with clients a lot with
Yeah,
is
then
that,
you're successful.
yeah, in that sense that I understand them because I'm that guy. Like
Yeah,
I was a 265 pound, 5'6" obese kid that decided I wanted to become a UFC fighter.
that's awesome, man. That's awesome, bro. Yeah,
Yeah, so I
very cool.
understand the pain.
Yeah.
Like I get you. Yeah, and I made a lot of mistakes. Like I
Yo, me
made
too, brother. Yeah, me too. Absolutely, man. You
a ton of them. Like I can't even announce. I made more mistakes than I did right. That's for
know,
sure. Put it that
that's
way.
how we learn, right?
That's how we learn. And a big part of my learning is I learned that it's important to get actually strong in all movements, not just sports. Like so, a lot of my training and strength conditioning when I was an athlete was sport specific, but it wasn't actually sports. It wasn't actually getting me any more muscles. It wasn't getting me actually stronger. I was just doing movements that were kind of taxing, that were taking away from my actual training where I should have been putting that energy.
Yeah.
But when I saw your exercise, I was like, this actually is a great in between because yes, you are training things that sports specific. They're more similar movement patterns to what you'd be doing in certain sports. But you're also adding that real heavy compound lifting, getting physically stronger, stuff that will build hypertrophy, build muscle.
So, it's, two things can be true. So, there's two camps, like people that try to train really specifically to their sport, and people that just believe, like, hey, there's no such thing as non functional strength, right? If you're stronger, you're stronger. And kind of both of those are true. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? Like, so my thing is, like, if somebody doesn't know how to sequence the move with under resistance, um, to use leverage and find their center of mass, it's going to be hard to transfer that strength to the sport, right? So a little bit of time does need to be dedicated to teaching somebody a semi-specific move so they can learn to sequence the body. Like the body works in a sequence, right? You have to rotate your hip internally, will knife edge your foot, rotate your hip, create coil in your spine. All of this stuff has to happen in a sequence fluidly. And I don't explain all this to a kid necessarily, or a trainer. I just try to get them to mimic my movement and feel the tensions develop, right? So I'm not trying to mimic their sport. I'm just trying to get them to learn to move their body in an athletic way. And I'm just making sure that if there's a weak link in that chain somewhere, that we find it and address it. But I agree, man. If you're on a machine and you're pressing hard and you're getting your pec stronger, that is functional strength. Your pec is getting functionally stronger. So these people that see people on machines and say, well, it's not doing them any good. Well, that's not true either, because any kind of strength is functional. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't disagree with either camp. I think a little bit needs to be dedicated to all of that stuff. And there is time to do all that, you know?
Well, and like you show that, and I think that one thing that's really important here that you bring up is that you're not really excluding anybody in your workout. Like, so you're doing a little bit of everything. You are adding in like maybe the RDLs or the squats, but you're also adding in the flow movements, and you're also adding in a little bit of the pump to get that hypertrophy to build that armor that you might need for whatever sport specific thing you're doing.
Eh, Now, I'm not an athlete in a specific sport, right? And I like bodybuilding, so I like big muscles. But when
Yeah.
somebody comes to me that has a very specific, let's say an MMA fighter, I'm going to be honest with them. I'm going to be like, bro, you can't look like a bodybuilder and be in MMA. That muscle tissue is going to tax your system. You're going to get tired faster. You got to drop some muscle. But I love bodybuilding and I like big muscles. That doesn't mean that I'm going to train everybody for hypertrophy, right? Or
Yeah.
focus on it. Like I will train my athletes according to the demands of their sport. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And you know as well as I do, man. Like the big dudes with a lot of muscle in MMA, they freaking get gassed, bro. You know what I
Well,
mean? Unless they're just genetically muscular. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, so yeah, I mean, first thing Brock Lesnar had to do was like drop a bunch of muscle. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and these dudes getting ready for the military, it's like, bro, you got to drop some muscle, man. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to be walking 30 miles, you cannot have, 150 pounds of upper body mass. It's going to smoke you, And there's plenty of time in life to be a bodybuilder. Now ain't it? You're trying to get ready for Ranger School, homie. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So,
You
yeah, I
said
do
the
train
funny
athletes. I'm
you
sorry,
under
man.
no, you undersold it by saying walking. What you mean is rucking because there's a shit ton of weight on your back already don't need the muscle to add on anymore.
Dude, if people ask me like in range school, it's like, man, how fast do you have to walk? I'm like, dude, it's slow. Like you walk so slow and you just take a knee every 10 steps and you do that all day long. Like it is the you got to get through your testing week, right? Where it's like a forced
Yeah,
ruck, and then where they try to weed people out. But after that, when you're patrolling, you're literally walking it's called a click, right? You
yeah.
walk 1 kilometer an hour, like as you patrol. It's
Oh
like
god.
it's a different kind of in shape, man. You know what I mean? Like
It's like a mental torture in shape,
it's
is what it is.
horrible, bro.
Oh, it sounds horrible. It sounds horrible. I'm really happy and grateful that you guys do it. I'm really happy and grateful that you guys do it. So, I'm gonna like turn it a little bit the conversation. I want to ask a little bit about when you started. One, after you got out the military, after you started working, you were a head trainer. I'm trying to remember the gym. Was it
It was uh, uh World Gym in
World Gym?
Chicago.
World
Yeah,
Gym. I was trying to remember in Chicago. By the way, I used to
took
live
me
in
a minute too.
Chicago. Yeah,
Yeah.
I used to live in Chicago as well.
Oh no way! What part of Chicago?
I lived on on Ashton and Grant and
Yeah, that's
Ashton.
pretty close. I lived in like Addison and Belmont or something.
Oh,
Pine
cool.
Grove, right there by Wrigley
Yeah, we're
Field.
right next to each other. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's not too far away. Yeah, it's
Right
very
in
cool.
the battle. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I lived there for a while. I used to train. My coach was Dino Spencer. He used to own POW, and he owned Flow MMA, which I used to train at over there. And then I
Very
moved to
cool. I
Manhattan.
love Chicago, man. It's a fun town, bro. Winters were
It's a
rough
great
though.
town. The cold is a bit much to handle, but
Yeah,
it's
I know. Yeah, I had to get out because it's
you
too
had to
much.
get at some point. You're like, oh, you really? This is what the winter is? You're gonna do this again? Okay, I'm out of here. See you later, bud. That's enough for me. Thanks. Below 20. That's enough for me. I'm good.
It just never ends either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. It's like, isn't it July now? What's
Yeah,
going on?
so true.
Yeah, it's nuts. But yeah, so after you ended there, you started going into business for yourself. You started training people. You started training people online and in person. One, how did you start that process? How was that for you? Can you give me a little backstory on that?
Man, actually, dude, I'm not an online trainer.
Okay.
So I've taken on a few online clients, but my biggest thing is I train athletes for speed, and I train older adults in the morning. And
Okay.
those two very dichotomous populations is what I believe really made me a much better trainer.
Yeah.
And just like grinding, man. Like, it was just me and another guy. I'm the minority owner of this place called Acceleration. And it was just me and him for like 2 years. And we had 7 days a week, 10 hours a day. And it was just, I mean, I think I calculated I've done like 34,000 training sessions. And and when you train kids starting at 9 through their high school years and they're athletes, you will see every injury known to man. You know what I
Right.
mean? Osgood slaughters, Sever's disease, avulsion fractures. You'll have to deal with scoliosis, autism, every kind of break and sprain. So I have seen everything a dozen times, and I have, there's no gap between the surgery that they go through, the basic rehab, and then back on the field. I was that gap probably 5,000 times.
Wow.
And so I've learned to rehab, and that's why when somebody asks me a question about rehab, like I know before they even get done.
Yeah.
And then in the mornings, I started training like their parents who started out in their mid 40s all the way to the mid 70s. So I train adults who have all kinds of different injuries and kids. And doing that is what really equipped me to be the trainer I am today. Just session after session after session.
Oh, for sure. I remember those grinds back in the day, those 10-hour grinds. I have a different type of grind now, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Now it's like get on an airplane every 3, 4 days grind.
Bro, it's hard in a different way, right?
It's hard a different way.
Yeah.
When you went there, did you have a connection that you jumped over there for, or did you just shoot out into Austin and try to figure it out?
I wasn't even really thinking about Austin. I almost took a job. I'm so grateful I didn't, as a fitness director for this chain of gyms in South Carolina. Just a business position. And because I was convinced like I got to get a real job. I can't be a trainer the rest of my life, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And tried to sell insurance for like 3 months and wanted to freaking kill myself. So I like funny in Chicago, like I was selling insurance, right? And I was actually pretty good at it because I would just go and these dudes would start talking to me about fitness. I wouldn't say a word about insurance, and then they just sign up for insurance at the end.
He's like,
'Cause-
oh, just keep talking with them.
yeah, so like, and one day I was driving to work, man. I passed that World Gym. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I pulled in. I was like, you guys looking for a trainer? And then I was just a trainer for a couple months, and then I got promoted to fitness director. And then I left there and ended up staying with my brother. Was trying to find a direction in life, like that quarter life crisis kind of thing. And I just had my resume online, and the dude that started at Acceleration hit me up, because like I was CSCS certified or whatever. And I didn't think much of it, man. I came out and I was like, this is amazing, like it was something very unique. That's kind of my backstory, like right
That's
there.
amazing. What Speaking of that, how come? What took you down the road to get like CSCA for certified? And because that's like not a way that all trainers go. Like a lot of trainers, they don't get one. They might not get certified in any by any certification, and they just are going, or they're getting certified by some random online certification. What made you say no? I really want to take this seriously and go down this way.
Man, I don't know how much I want to trash certifications, on a podcast, but
Yeah,
they're overblown, bro. I mean, like
yeah,
seriously, if the information on a certification, even CSCS, like they're known as like the elite certification, right? If you want to be a strength coach, you have to be like NSCS or CSCS or something, right? And
yeah,
basically, they just require that you have a college degree. That's how they
yeah,
kind of weed people out. But you don't even need a college degree in physiology or something. You just need
yeah.
you can have a college degree in whatever,
That's
and
amazing.
it's like a racket, bro. Like,
Yeah.
and the questions they ask, like you should know most of that stuff, but they don't directly help you become a good trainer. Honestly, you can ace the CSCS and just be a horrible trainer. So you should get a certification as like a bare minimum. But when I came out of college, I had like 4 different certs or whatever. I was not ready to be a great trainer. I thought I was, but I had a lot left to learn. You know what I mean? So if I'm talking to people like get the certifications, they're gonna help you get in the door, and then you learn to be a good trainer. You know what I mean?
I really think that like learning on the field with the people is really what matters. Like I'm not dissing the theory. I think it's important.
Yeah.
Like I got certifications. So I started as a trainer. When I first started, I kind of was fighting professionally and I just needed side hustle money. So I was like, whatever it needed, I was like living off of survival mode. So very little income, almost homeless at that point because, fighters, they don't make anything.
Yeah, and
So
that's hard life, bro. Yeah.
it's hard knock life. Yeah. So I was just training to get it. And at some point, I kind of caught on as a trainer completely by accident. I don't really know why, but it just people were like gravitated
Yeah,
towards me and the
I'll
coaching.
probably tell you why, man. Because to be a good trainer, you need to actually care about other people. If you don't need to be perfect in all the science, but if you can motivate people and get them to buy in to what and be passionate about them, you're gonna be a good trainer. Like everybody, you didn't just happen into that, man. I can tell already. You are a people person that cares about people, and people can tell that, and then they want to work out with you. As opposed to somebody that just knows all the science. I know a lot of those dudes. They know all the science and they don't care about people. I mean, that's what being a trainer is about. Is you're a teammate with them. You're their servant. They're like you serve them. Like I said,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with serving people,
Yeah.
and then they can tell like you care about them. You know what I mean?
Well, I appreciate that. I hope that's true. I hope that's why they enjoyed it. And as I did it, I then became much more interested in like once I saw that hey, there's a future here potentially for me. I got serious about it. I got educated as well, but I realized that I became better, actually better as a trainer when the more hours I spent. I said, is even though I could spend 10 hours in the classroom and maybe I got 1% better as a trainer, but I spent 10 hours on the field and I got 10% better. So it was a legitimately output field. Like when I'm in there, when I'm with the person,
That's the
when I'm
truth right there,
feeling,
man. That's truth right there. That's so true. You know what I mean? To get good at something, you have to do it, right? Like
you
you
have
have
to
to
do
do
it.
it. Yeah.
And you
It's
have
like
to know,
fighting. I can be in the gym all day long. I'd be a horrible fighter. You got to fight, bro. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you got to get in there, get punched in the face a couple
yeah,
times.
yeah, bro. Yeah.
Yeah. And you got to feel you got to understand what the other person is dealing with and truly understand it. And I think the only way to do that is to be in the field there with him at that time.
Yeah. People find out in a hurry. The things that you think will work when you become a trainer, they don't work. That like you got to learn to teach people. You have to understand their injuries and learn how to find things that work with that person's anatomy. You cannot learn that in a classroom. I'm sorry. Like you have to just figure it out. You know?
100%, 100%. So I'm gonna take a one more shift because we're getting closer to that 30-minute mark, and I'm just curious. So you obviously I found you through Instagram. I actually a friend of mine, Brian B underscore Roman. You guys should go check him out. He actually was like, "Yo, you gotta check this guy out." And I was like, first I saw you, I was like, whoa, this guy's massive. I looked into you a bit. I started seeing your workouts. I was like, this is cool. And then I didn't know from like the time I followed you till now, it's been like, I'm like, every time I look, it's like another 10,000 followers are going
Yeah,
up.
it's weird, man. I don't get it. Grateful,
Yeah.
I'm grateful. Yeah.
How did that, was there any plan to that or was that just completely random?
Man, it started. I think I had 5,000 followers, and I posted this random reel of me doing speed work, and I didn't realize at the time how unusual it was for a big guy to do speed drills. Because I mean, I've been doing them for a decade, right? And then it just went. That one went viral, and then it just went from there. You know what I mean? And then I didn't realize how, you know, odd the flow movements were. That's just stuff I always did. You know what I mean? And then like people like I've never seen that before. I'm like, it's kind of like a wood chop, but like a wood chop's just so awkward and unnatural. You know, do you ever remember like when they're training you to be a trainer? It's like the wood chop. It's like this is the best we
Yeah.
can do. You know, it's like
Yeah.
no man. Like somebody commented with something like, "What you're doing are just wood chops." And I'm like, I was like so offended. I'm like, wood chop is just like horrible, man. Like I used to sit there. I'm like, that's the best we can come up with. And then sometimes we go up, and I'm like, oh wow, mind blown there. You know, like, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've
the
had
wood
that
chop.
exact thought. I'm like, really? This is what we're
Every
doing
time I
right
go to a
now?
gym and I see this young trainer doing like they've been doing the wood shop for like literally 30 years now, right?
Oh yeah,
Since
oh
like the
yeah.
90s. And I
It
see this
won't
trainer
die.
like teaching the wood shop, you know, and I'm like, oh God, dude, you got a long road, bro.
Man, I know exactly. I've had this thought at least 100,000 times. That's what I'm hearing you say. I'm like, I'm glad I'm not the only one out here. I'm glad
I
I'm
wonder
not
how
the
much
only
better
one.
of a fighter doing wood chops would make you, you know what I mean?
It never made any sense to me. It was I used to have coaches, and no disrespect to any coaches in the past, but I'd have coaches make me do. I'd just be like, guys, can you explain this to me, please? Like, I need to understand why this is
Because
happening.
as an athlete, you can use know like this is not how athletes move, man. If I was gonna do this, I wouldn't stand straight and do this. Like it's
Yeah,
just not how we move, you know. Like
yeah, absolute 100%. You know, and what I want to say as well before we get off, like I've started incorporating just some of your movements straight from seeing them from Instagram. I started adding them. Unfortunately, I just tore my meniscus the other day, not from doing a movement, just
oh,
randomly.
bro, yeah, that's a bummer, man. I got a torn one too, actually. Is it like, do you know what it is? Is it flap tear, or do they tell you?
They didn't tell me. So I've torn my meniscus twice. I tore it the first time I tore it, I got surgery. It was a buckle tear. It
Yeah.
was stuck. The second time, I had a chondropathia and a torn meniscus, and it was just on the ladder tear. It wasn't a buckle though, but they still had to go in and fix it. And my ACL was partially torn. This time I didn't even get it checked. I was literally at my wife's birthday. I opened the door to, I surprised her for a birthday party. I walked out the door and it popped. As soon as I walked out, I just stuck like that. So I'm not doing the movements now. So if you guys don't see me doing them on Instagram, I still do them, but it just happened.
So one trick, man, is because I got a torn meniscus too, is to your plant leg, that's near like the source of your pulling. Make
Yeah.
sure that the heel isn't planted so that you can rotate your foot as you push. Because it
Okay.
hurts my meniscus too when I don't rotate that knee in. You know what I mean, to
Yes.
protect it. So just don't keep that heel planted for sure. You know,
Okay.
you absolutely don't have to do them. And another thing too is whatever meniscus is torn, just put that knee on a bench. So you actually take that meniscus out of it. So you kneel on a bench and you can still use the leverage from your glute without having to torque on the meniscus with your foot. Man, I'll post a reel about that, you know, as soon
Yeah.
as I can and kind of explain what I'm talking about. But
That'd be cool.
I actually got hit by a dog randomly too. You know, like I said, that dog like took me out. I knew right away. So it was like a little torn, you know, I could tell. I
Yeah.
knew right away. I was like, oh my stuff's fucked up. I didn't say anything to the client, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm
He's
like,
like,
man, you definitely
ah.
tore my meniscus. So it's
Yeah.
cool. I mean, whatever.
But I was just saying, I heard it pop as I walked out, and all my wife's friends were around. They're all like chit chatting. I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna suck this up for 20 seconds. This hurts, but I'm just gonna like let everyone have a good time. I'm not ruining the night right now, you
As a
know.
man, you can't like make a show of stuff, you know. You just gotta like
Yeah,
suck
yeah,
it.
yeah, you gotta take it. It's like I was like, this is my duty right now.
Yeah,
I
right.
gotta eat this right in the face. It doesn't matter if it hurts. This is my duty.
It's so true.
No,
But
definitely.
um but yeah, I'm sorry, what were you gonna say?
Yeah. So, Judd, I want to say, first of all, I really, really appreciate you coming on the podcast. It was super great to have you. We just hit that 30-minute mark. I'm not going to keep you. I know you got a million people to train and you got a million videos to shoot for us. And one,
I'm
if you
gonna
do
do a
shoot that,
meniscus video right now, bro. Just right now, I'm gonna go out and do a reel just for you, bro.
bro, hey man, I super appreciate it. I'm gonna as soon as you do, I'm gonna put it on my thing. But he did this one for me, just so you guys know. Give myself to feel special.
Hey,
No,
DM me so I know your Instagram for sure. So it's easy
I'm
to
gonna hit you on the
contact
DMs right now. Man. I'll hit you on
for
the
sure,
DMs for
brother.
sure. Hey, Jud Lionhardt, guys, please go follow him. I mean, honestly, don't if you don't follow him, it's your guys' loss. He's awesome, 100%, and he's even cooler in person. I was awesome talking to you, and please, if you ever want to come back on again, you're 100% welcome. We'll do this 20 times if you want.
Anytime, brother. Good talking to you, man. Nice to meet you,
Nice,
man.
nice to meet you,
Thank you.
brother. Ciao.